The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. A man named John was sent from God. He came for testimony, to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to testify to the light. And this is the testimony of John. When Jews from Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to him to ask him, "Who are you?" He admitted, and did not deny it, but admitted, "I'm not the Christ." So they asked him, "What are you then? Are you Elijah?" And he said, "I am not." "Are you a prophet then?" And he answered, "No." And so they asked him, "Who are you? So we can give an answer to those who sent us. What do you have to say for yourself?" And so he said, "I am the voice of the one crying out in the desert, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as Isaiah the prophet said." So some Pharisees were also sent, and they asked him, "Well, why then do you baptize? And if you are not the Christ, or Elijah, or the prophet?" And John answered them, "I baptize with water, but there is one among you whom you do not recognize, the one who is coming after me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to untie." This happened in Bethany across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. The Gospel of the Lord. So who are you? And what do you have to say for yourself? Well, if you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Everything your heart desires will come to you. The song is emblazoned deep in my mind somewhere very early on. It became one of my favorite songs. It's, of course, the great solo of Jiminy Cricket in the Disney film Pinocchio, right? But it was also a song that was sung as part of the medley that began The Wonderful World of Disney every Sunday night. I remember that very well as a child because my brother and I, of course, would scurry up to my grandmother's sitting room because my grandmother was the owner of the only TV in our house, a gift of my parents to her for one of her birthdays. So it was Grandma's TV. So you had to bargain with Grandma to watch whatever you wanted to watch on TV. And at 7:30 on Sunday nights, it wasn't hard to get her to convince to go over to Disney. The hope was, though, that she would fall asleep in the first half hour of The Wonderful World of Disney, because then she wouldn't be tempted to turn the channel at 8 o'clock, I think, to something like the Ed Sullivan Show or one of these other adult variety shows that was on Sunday night. And that, of course, would cut off the Disney adventure that my brother and I were watching, this wonderful, imaginative world, which was either some animated film with all kinds of great characters, or, maybe more interesting, it was some kind of wild animals in a documentary, and you were learning about their lives. In any case, it took us to another world and expanded our mind and expanded our sense of possibilities. And I would say it stirred up our sense of hope, because we saw something that just seemed to be so interesting and attractive and expansive to our own world, something different and neat. And so there's a way in which I think that wishing upon a star, that great theme of Disney, is something maybe you and I need to pay attention to in this third week of Advent. As we continue our Advent journey, I think there's something we need to really think about. That maybe that's what we need, my friends, is to take stock in otherworldly hopes. And that may be just what we need. And I'm not saying we need some pie-in-the-sky, kind of Pollyanna-esque, everything's beautiful. That's not what I'm talking about, no. I think in order to deal with the harsh realities of our own times, we actually need that otherworldly focus that allows us to look for a divine source of empowerment through God's grace, especially by way of the gift of divine hope. People need to find, you might say, a North Star that can guide them. We will hear the story of those magi who came looking for Christ because the star was going to point in the most unlikely place among the most unlikely and historically insignificant people. in circumstances that were dire, if not worse. There they would find God present, and they needed a star to lead them there, right? And so you and I might need to look upon a star, at least a glimmer of hope that allows us to be able to come to know it, because we're not going to find it in our news feeds, right? What's going on in the news right now is not hope-filled, and it's not enlightening. And in fact, it's unfortunately some old, very old stuff that is our worst selves coming to life again in many instances. And also we'll see that there's any number of negative voices out there that aren't going to encourage us to find that gift of hope right in the midst of it. It's not going to nourish our soul or motivate us. And so I think you and I might need a dream-like hope this Advent, and at this point in history. This Advent is lining up with our historical circumstances in a way where that, I think, is what we need. Recently, I was hearing a story about how the most searched term on the website Investopedia, which I do not normally go looking to Investopedia, but it's not some typical term like what is a credit default swap or what is the debt ceiling or something that's more practically financial. No. The most searched term in 2023 on Investopedia.com or whatever it is the American dream. Now, that is a rather existential and esoteric term, even by financial standards, but it's a concept you and I and all of us have grown up with, right? Some idea of this American dream, a kind of optimism that allows us to say, we can, in this world, have an economy that allows all of us an opportunity to make something of ourselves or of our world or of our communities that's different. Interestingly enough, that term, American Dream, has not shown up on the top 100 search terms in Investopedia in the last several years. It's not shown up on the top 100, but this year, it's the most searched term. I think that says something. I think people are looking for something, and something that maybe you and I are also looking for. And it might be something we need to pay attention to. But in a world where the politics of grievance seems to be dominant, among a certain percentage of Americans no longer even believe in the actual premise of a democracy. That's a fact now. A certain percentage of people don't believe in it, and on all sides, we're more prone to calling each other out and canceling each other's efforts rather than finding some shared values that we can work toward a cooperation or construct something positive, and I would offer dare to hope. We're just not there. And so a dream is maybe what we need to be able to dream. I remember years ago when I was working in a Spanish-speaking community, I kept hearing the word ilusión or ilusiones. And I think, oh, illusions, well, that's a bad thing, right? Except the context of what people were sharing was really positive, and that was a curiosity until someone explained to me, oh, no, ilusión, an illusion, a dream, a sueño, as they say, that's a really positive and necessary thing in the Spanish language and in certain cultures, because circumstances in life can be so difficult and so grindingly difficult that you absolutely need dreams just to keep going. And we can look at case study after case study of people who've been through horrific things. And it was only because they had a dream, almost a fantasy of what they could be and how they could be, that they were able to then summon the ability to endure and persevere and in fact maybe change their circumstances. And so it's because of that need for a gift of hope, and I'm not talking a foolish hope here, my friends. That's fate or luck. No. I'm talking about what we would call divine hope that inspires us and fuels us with the grace to make hopes become realities. We're talking in divine hope about something that's given to you and me by God, and that allows us then to take that and empowers us with our good effort then to make that real. That's what divine hope is. And that's the difference between what you might say are simple or fantastical hopes with a small h and divine hope with a capital H, I guess. And so I think there's a way in which you and I might need to do that on this Gaudete Sunday, this third week of Advent, where we see John the Baptist, this wild and unconventional believer in Christ, who is filled and full of the possibility of what Jesus is presenting to him. And he's willing to put himself out there and be a voice for that possibility and hope of this thing called the reign of God's love. He's willing to be the voice crying out in the midst of the desert, the wilderness, the craziness. And he's willing to look a little crazy in order to be that voice, and therefore make a way, make an opening that leads us forward. Make straight the way of the Lord. Let God's presence be opened up for us by our good effort, God's grace, in that gift of hope. In hope. It's an empowering hope, like I said. And so, friends, I think we need to really do that. To dream a vision that hope can allow us to guide us past a craziness or a disparity that might be around us. Like I said, the negative voices or the grievances, those things that just pull us down or back, and allow ourselves to seek what is possible by God's grace in this gift of hope. And then I think we can answer the questions that John has asked. Well, who are you then? Well, I'm somebody who follows Christ and is willing to believe in that reign of God's love, and part of that is a gift of hope. So what do you have to say for yourself then? What do I have to say for myself? That I can be that. Because a God gives me something I don't deserve and that I don't even always ask for. But it empowers me, and if I put my good effort together with that grace of hope, we make those hopes real. Something changes. Our reality reflects God's desired reality for us, God's reign of love. God's reality becomes present in the world. That's what Advent's about, and that's what the incarnation of God empowers you and me to do. So dream and hope and desire. Maybe Jiminy Cricket's song gives us that answer. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do. Friends, let the dream allow us, within our hearts, to make that request, to let hope be real, an accepted real gift that empowers you and me to let everyone know who we are and what we have to say about that hope in this world now. Amen.